Meghan Markle might have to adjust to strict royal protocols, but she's not alone. Her aides also have to put up with a bunch of crazy rules. But that's not even the worst of it. Apparently, they seem to be having a tough time adjusting to Meghan's ways. At the royal palace, it's either her way or the highway. But is Meghan being too tough on her aides? Make sure you watch this video until the end to see why the pressure has made 3 of them already call it quits. Now let's get into 10 strict rules Meghan Markle's aides must follow. A duchess needs help. It doesn't take an entire village to lend Meghan Markle a hand, but the duchess does need a special team to basically handle her whole life. When Meghan married Prince Harry, the former actress's entire life did a 180. She went from having pretty much all the freedom in the world to having people telling her what to do 24/7, and it's clearly taking a toll on her. But Meghan's been handling the pressure like a boss. But somehow, people are starting to think her royal aides may not agree. Samantha Cohen, Melissa Tuapti, Amy Pickrell, and Edward Lane are among those who have guided the newly inducted Duchess. While Pickrell is fairly new at Kensington Palace, Cohen has been around for ages. In fact, she's considered a friend of the royal family, so she and the other aides have used their collective knowledge to help with Meghan's transition. But there have been a few hiccups along the way. Meghan may not be a fan of being told what to do, but in this instance, she'll be required to keep an open mind. Aides like Pickrell ensure that Meghan's needs are always met, and they're also there to provide guidance so that the Duchess stays in line with the royal protocols. But whoever said turning an actress from across the pond into a royal was going to be easy? After all, being a royal is not the Disney fairy tale you'd expect. The job is tough. Looking for a career change? Well, if you're browsing online, you might stumble onto a job ad for a royal seeking a new personal assistant. And no, this isn't one of those weird online scams. Harry and Meghan are actually looking for help, but fair warning, this position isn't for everyone. Just ask the many staffers working for the newlyweds who have recently decided to quit their jobs. Melissa Tuapti, one of Meghan's personal aides, is ready to walk out on the Duchess. So is Harry's personal assistant, Edward Lane Fox. And Samantha Cohen, who is the couple's private secretary, is also calling it quits. Ouch! What is going on at the royal palace? Is the pressure really so bad that 3 of their aides are ready to say goodbye so soon? Well, the media seems to think so. There are rumors going around that Meghan's aides are simply fed up with her attitude. But we couldn't imagine Meghan is that hard to work with. After all, she comes from a professional and educated background. However, there are other reasons that may have contributed to their resignations. The work hours are hectic. They also have a bunch of rules to follow that can get really old pretty fast. From having to carry themselves a certain way to what they can and cannot wear, life at the palace is pretty tough. On top of that, they've also had to be ready to do some damage control after Meghan's father said some pretty nasty things to the media. But now the royal palace will have to break in a whole new team of aides, and the media is having a field day claiming that Meghan isn't the easiest person to deal with. And like any job, there's an adjustment period, and there's one thing all candidates need to have if they want to work with Meghan and Harry. Patience is a must. Patience is a virtue, but it's also sort of a requirement in this line of work, especially when dealing with a stressed-out, pregnant Meghan Markle. Aides may have clashed with Meghan in the past and will undoubtedly continue to do so. That's just part of the game. But there's one thing they can never, ever do, and that involves losing their cool on the Duchess. In other words, she can have an outburst and throw a fit. But if you're working as her aide, you better stay calm. At least that's what the media is reporting. According to a few sources, there were a couple of times when Meghan and her aides had a few explosive moments. But if aides have allegedly had issues with the new Duchess in the past, it's probably gotten worse since she got pregnant. Meghan's been so stressed out at this point that she can barely sleep at night. She's even resorted to yoga to control her stress. She's admittedly dealt with insomnia, which has likely put her on edge. Some of her aides have even nicknamed her Duchess Difficult. But people need to give Meghan a little credit for learning the royal protocols that weren't part of her life until recently. Plus, the rumors might just be that, rumors. Your lifestyle has to match. Meghan's aides' lifestyles have to be in sync or at least similar to Meghan. If she communicates through email, text messages, or WhatsApp, then her aides have to just roll with it. And if she's a bit curt and direct, then they have to go with the flow and adapt. Otherwise, personalities will clash like two oncoming trains. But not everyone sees Meghan's directness as a positive thing. Rumors claim that Kate Middleton thinks Meghan is way too rude to her aides and the staff. But the royal family states this is nothing but gossip and have tried to shut these rumors down. Despite that, the rumor mill continues to spin out of control and claim Meghan's under a lot of stress. But that's to be expected when you go from Hollywood actress to Duchess overnight. Still, it does seem like the media is trying to blow the whole thing out of proportion and make her look like she's a tyrant. Let's be honest here. The reports are a tad bit dramatic, and if there's some truth to it, we should all give her credit. She's still adjusting and has her own way of doing things. That's bound to rub people the wrong way. They'll just have to get over it, and so will Kate. That is, if the rumors are true. Dress up rules. The royal protocols prevent Meghan from doing a lot of things, including wearing anything she wants when she's out and about. But she's not the only one who has to adhere to certain style rules. Aides have a lot on their plates. They have to run the show, manage agendas, schedule things, and stay on top of the media. And if that wasn't crazy enough, they also have to adhere to a strict dress code. When they get dressed in the morning, they have to think about how the public will perceive them and make the right choices. Wearing outfits that are simple and professional is the best way to go. But one thing they need to consider above all else is to ensure they never outshine the boss. Now, these rules aren't necessarily official or bound by British law, but you can bet that if any of Meghan's aides popped up with a statement dress or a shiny outfit, they would soon be looking for another job. We're sure that the royals' aides, personal assistants, and nannies probably enjoy taking their heels off and letting their hair down after a rough day at work, just like any normal person. Make smart choices. Aides are responsible for keeping an eye on a lot of things, including what accessories and shoes they wear. They must always look professional, which means you should stay far away from bold colors and patterns. They have to cover themselves appropriately too. After all, when's the last time you saw any of Meghan's aides sporting a tank top and a miniskirt? That said, aides also must make sure to always dress comfortably, since they're constantly on the go. So they have to balance comfort and professionalism when choosing their outfits. It explains why you never see her aides wearing high heels. It would be impossible to run around in a pair of stilettos all day. Seriously? That would be a total nightmare. And we're pretty sure aides wouldn't be allowed to sit down every 10 minutes just because their feet hurt, right? So whatever shoes they choose to wear, they should always make sure that they go for a heel height that's pretty conservative in length. A shift dress or a skirt suit is also part of an aide's dress code, unless he's a man. But that's not everything. Aides would never show up with a tiny clutch. They always carry around big bags to hold all their notes. It's pretty rare to see any of Meghan's aides without a handbag or a large tote over their shoulders. But what could possibly be in these bags, you may ask? The aides use them to put all of the gifts and cards that Meghan receives when she's out and about. This leaves Meghan's hands free to greet all of her admirers. You can't just quit. As a royal aide, you're not really allowed to just quit. Well, sort of. They won't force you to stick around if you really want to leave, but they will do everything in their power to persuade you to stay. That is, only if your services are considered invaluable by the royal family. Just ask Samantha Cohen. She's been with the royal family since 2001. She had every intention of retiring, but later on, she was asked to be Meghan's special aide. Cohen is pretty conservative, though, which is the total opposite of Meghan, and it seems their fashion choices aren't the only things that set these women apart. According to the tabloids, Cohen and Meghan are like oil and water, and the new Duchess is said to be so demanding that Cohen just gave up and announced she was quitting. But there's more to the story than what the media is letting on. It turns out that Cohen's departure isn't really as dramatic as they make it seem. She was just staying around until Meghan gives birth next spring. The Duchess was supposedly interested in making her a permanent aide, but Cohen is ready to retire after working so many years for the royals. Meanwhile, Meghan's gonna have to find someone else to fill the position. Whoever she hires may need lots of energy and patience in order to fill Cohen's shoes. You'll be in charge. In Prince Harry's world, everything is planned to the letter. And even though Meghan has been married to him for a while, she's still getting used to the way things work. As an actress, she had tons of people doing things for her. So, in a way, this is kind of similar. Her aides are expected to be in charge of planning her entire schedule. They're essentially the ones running the show. So if anything goes wrong, it's their head on the chopping block. Sort of. Like any relationship, it takes a lot of work from both sides to keep things running smoothly. There is a whole team put together to make everything work. For example, Amy Pickerel, one of Meghan's aides, answers to Prince Harry's private secretary, Edward Lane Fox. Simon Case oversees the Kensington Palace operations. He's also the Prime Minister's private secretary. These people have a role to play in molding Meghan into the royal family. This is particularly important because she and Prince Harry are seen as the more approachable royals. They're charitable, friendly, and love to go out and meet people. But that leaves them pretty vulnerable too. There are many opportunists in the media. It's why Meghan's aides are 100% in charge of making sure that nothing goes wrong. And that includes dealing with a potential family scandal. Handling the press. Meghan's aides aren't simply there to assist her. They're expected to follow critical situations early on. Aides are supposed to defuse a situation before it becomes a royal nuclear meltdown. Case in point, there was that incident with Meghan and her estranged dad, Thomas. He claimed that Meghan ignored him and excluded him from her life. He not only lashed out at his daughter, but also her new husband and her in-laws. And as you can imagine, the royals were a bit pissed. Fortunately, the royal family's aides had crisis meetings to figure out how to tackle the situation. They came up with a few ideas and talked it out with Meghan. She could have talked to her father to calm him down. Her aides could have also met up with a mediator to negotiate peace between this father-daughter duo. As a last resort, Meghan had the option to cut ties with her father forever in order to put a stop to his behavior. These are just some of the scenarios that a team of good aides are required to deal with. They're in charge of handling the media, which is why having previous experience in public relations is key if you want to be on Team Meghan. But in general, it's pretty tough for aides to force a royal to follow any of their suggestions. At the very least, they handled the Thomas Markle situation like total pros, and you wouldn't expect anything less. You have to be educated. Meghan's aides simply can't get by with just a high school diploma. If you want to work for the Duchess, you have to be highly educated, particularly in PR and media relations. It might sound unfair, but this background will help them advise Meghan on how to avoid getting into trouble. And trust us, there are plenty of ways for Meghan to step in it. For example, did you know that she can't get involved in controversies or make any sort of political statements? Amy Pickerel is pretty educated in this field. It's why she's Meghan's assistant after all. She's in charge of overseeing any and all of Meghan's public relations, and she's also expected to keep the Duchess in line with the royal protocols. When she's out and about, Pickerel's the one who picks the flowers that fans are eager to give Meghan. Given the loss of some of Meghan's aides, Pickerel will have her hands full picking up the slack, and there's a good chance the Duchess will follow in Prince William and Kate Middleton's footsteps and turn to LinkedIn to recruit new candidates. Hopefully, Meghan will duly warn her next potential aides that the job is no walk in the park. There are a bunch of rules in place, but thankfully, they seem to make total sense, right? Do you think the media is blowing Meghan's attitude out of proportion? Could it just be Meghan adjusting to her new royal life? Let us know what you think in the comments down below. And as always, thanks for watching.